All right, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of How I Came Into the Truth.
All right.
Today we have the man behind the scenes. We finally get to see him, the one who makes all the magic happen. Somewhat in Gary, Indiana, with the video, the audio, and also helps us out in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? And different locations, I'm sure. I'd like to introduce to you all the other Brother Nate.
Hey, and it's a pleasure being here with
Yes,
the other Brother Nate. Brother Nate ATL. That's what I call him.
Right. Yeah, that's how I got you in my phone. Nate, Gary.
Yeah.
So once again, man, I'd like to thank you, as I do with all my brothers and sisters that come on. Thank you for taking this time out to bless us with your story, how I came into the truth. I'd like to give everybody, an opportunity just to, about a minute or so, just to introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Brother Nate. Nathaniel is my name. Nathaniel Holloway. I haven't changed it legally to Israel, but Nathaniel Holloway. Teach at the Gary class. I actually started off in the Indianapolis class with Brother Obadiah. So that's kind of how my first teaching was, the Indianapolis class. Now I'm up in Gary, actually teaching kids and students, and we're teaching the kids. So it's an honor. It's a beautiful thing.
Okay. So now, where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Gary, Indiana.
Oh, you're originally from Gary?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you grew up in Gary?
Grew up in Gary. Grew up in Gary till I was 21. 21 years old, we moved to Lafayette. Stayed down in Lafayette for 20-something years. Me and my wife is McCall, Sister McCall, McCall Holloway. That's actually how, I can't say how I found out about the word. But that's how I came into the word.
Through her, okay.
Yep, through my wife.
Okay. So growing up in Gary, Indiana, now we know, most people may not know, but I know a few of us do, place of Michael Jackson, right?
Home of Michael Jackson, and when I was growing up in the 90s, which my teenage years, it was the murder capital.
Yeah, we heard that.
Yeah, it was the murder capital per ratio. Gary's not a big city, but it's a city. It's not one of the biggest cities, and per ratio, so it made us the murder capital for years. So we was murder capital predominantly throughout. If we won one, we was 2 or 3 for probably about 10 years straight.
So how was it for you growing up in Gary in an environment like that?
I know one of the questions was before, did I grow up a good kid, bad kid? I was in the middle. So I was actually an honor student. But as the music say, the hood can take you under. Yeah. And I got to hang around my boys that was in the streets.
So that probably was older.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to being when you were younger.
When I was younger, it was just Michael Jackson playing in the streets. Everybody wanted to be Michael Jackson. He was the man from Gary, Right. So as a kid, just growing up, we still could go outside. So say probably my true childhood as a little kid of innocence, probably the 80s. Yep, in the 80s. So in the 80s, it was growing up with just the normal things, ice cream trucks, wasn't too much gang banging going on or nothing like that. But we did have the gangs at that time, Frank.
Okay, so yeah. Well, I did see that, and then we talked earlier, yesterday, I believe, you said you more so came up in the church by way of your grandmother.
Yeah, by my grandmother.
So your parents they didn't really push it, but they did allow.
Yeah, they didn't push it. Yeah, so my grandmother, she actually stayed 2 blocks away, 2 blocks over. This is my mother's mother. And so she would come pick me up every Sunday. So, and that was my little refuge at the time, I guess you can say, get me away from seeing all the things that's going on in the neighborhood. Right. So from the time I can remember, it's probably 5 years old, she would pick me up, take me to Sunday school. Right. She was a Sunday school teacher. So she would take me there. They called her Sister Ruby. And so she would take me, and I sat under her for years. I think I want to say she taught to, you got about to 10 years old, from 5 to 10. And then when I got over 10, I went to another lady's Sunday school class inside the church. Okay. And the church, coincidentally, was called Israel CME Baptist Church.
Right.
So
go figure, right? So you so you kind of had somewhat of a foundation.
Somewhat
Uh-huh.
somewhat
Somewhat of a foundation.
Yeah.
Okay. So being a child, especially young, training or shaping the personality of a child. Going to church, man, at that age, it kind of gives you some structure.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what happened between, I guess, age 10 up until teenage to where you said,
It started to go left.
Yeah.
Let's see, from 10 to 12, and we talked about this story too last night, I think. I said it was probably about 5. It might have been when I was like 7 to 8. And my mother gave me money for some candy to go to the candy store.
Uh-huh.
And I put the money in, and I took my change out the collection plate.
Mm-hmm. So now you had $5.
$5.
And you put it in the collection.
Yeah, I put in my $5 and I took $4 back.
Right. So for people that may be watching, you wanted to get change.
I wanted my change.
I'm gonna give you $1,
Yeah.
but I need my $4 back for my candy.
Yeah, for my candy.
Right, which is very wise as a kid because what type of child thinks, well, I can get change out the offering plate? I'll just give them the $5. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what happened with that incident?
So the usher comes running over and he pointed at me, and then he told my grandmother that I was stealing. And my grandmother, she slapped me. She slapped me, she popped me right in my mouth, and she said, "You don't steal from the Lord." And I looked at her, I said, "Grandma, I'm not stealing from God. I'm getting my change."
And what did she say?
And she said, "You don't do that. That's robbing Peter to give to Paul," or something. She said, I can't even remember how she said it. And I just was like, and it just kind of changed my aspect on the church. But I kept going for a while.
I would have took my $5, but I'm sorry. Go ahead. Give me all my money back.
Yeah, look, I wanted to. I'm a kid.
Right,
you know what I'm saying. So time went on. I kept going, but it was more grudgingly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Went grudgingly.
Bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah. So and I got scolded the whole drive back because she felt I embarrassed her. I mean, this guy came across the room.
We jumping over pews.
Yeah,
and stuff, man.
yeah. So you know what I'm saying. I guess he really thought I was stealing.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's what I said. No.
Mm-hmm.
I kept giving the money. I just put my money in, and how I felt was I wanted my change back. So she did. She talked to my mother, and she asked my mother. She said, "Did you give him $5?" And my mother was like, "Yeah, I gave him $5 so he can go to the candy store and everything." And she did. She later on, she kind of apologized, but it wasn't really. She told me not to do that no more. Like my grandmother, she said, you don't make change. What you give to the Lord is what you give to the Lord. I said, well, I wanted my candy. I could have. What, you want me to hold it off until I went to the candy store and gave you the money to give the guy? We'd have been left the church. So
Wow. Smart as a kid.
Yeah. So she just was like. So my mother was like, well, she was like, he had the $5, so don't. He did the right thing. He literally probably did get his change out. And I had $4. I told my grandmother, I said, I took $4 back.
Oh, so you did get your $4?
Yeah, I took my $4.
Okay, I thought.
He wasn't gonna stop me from getting my change.
Oh, you got your...
I got my change.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, I put my change in my pocket.
Right,
Yeah,
but you got your change.
I got my change.
Okay,
He ain't stopping me from getting my change, no.
Right, okay.
And I guess you could say as a kid, I was thinking,
Yeah, you smart.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep my $4. I don't care what you say.
Right.
You said I stole. I know I didn't steal. I'm getting my change.
Right.
So then, like I said, she smacked me and she said, "Did you?" I said, "Yeah." She was like, "What you?" I said, "That's my change," and I put it in my pocket. Y'all ain't getting this from me. It's my money.
Right. So that kind of left you with a bad taste, literally in your mouth.
Yeah.
You got hit in the mouth.
Yeah, for years. I go home. I'm not going to church with grandma. I'm not going with granny this Sunday. I'm not going.
Did she notice the change?
Yeah, she noticed it because she would have to call.
Oh.
And so my mother, she was working. She was working on it. So she working. My father, he worked construction.
Mm-hmm.
So he off on Sunday. So he'd just be like, "Oh, you can go ahead and go. I have him ready." You know what I'm saying? Tell my grandma he'll be ready. And so this continued for years until I got to 16.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 16, she said, I'm picking you up. Because I would go off and on for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But then at 16, is when I finally stopped, and that's when I got shot when I was 16 years old.
Okay, what happened with you getting shot? You told me a little bit about it.
Yeah, that's one of the ones, playing with guns. As they say, you reap what you sow. So a little bit, I like to say, my past behaviors as a teenager from 13 to 16 caught up with me. So, and at that time, we didn't gang bang per se. There was a lot of gang banging at that time frame for me.
Now, at this point, you're in Lafayette.
No, I'm still in Gary.
Oh, still in Gary. Oh, okay. So that didn't happen until later on when you moved to Lafayette.
I didn't get shot until I got shot at 16. I was still in Gary. I ain't moved to Lafayette. I ain't moved to Lafayette until I was 21.
Oh, okay,
21.
okay.
Yep, 21 years old is when I moved to Lafayette, and that was more for college. So, 15 through 16 was like my rebellious stages. So, you know, wanted to sell drugs and hang out with the killers and murderers.
Right.
And that's when I picked that up. So then my father trying to find some way for me to get stable. So then he actually called my grandmother, which is his mother-in-law, and said, hey, maybe him going to church can kind of save him. So I would go back. I'll go Sunday. She picked me up. I'd jump in the car, ride with her. And at 16 when I got shot, and how I got shot was, it was literally playing with a gun. My friend was playing with the gun, and he wasn't actually trying to shoot me. He was just flipping it and spinning it.
Oh, it was a revolver.
And when he lifted it up, he was playing with the hammer, and it slipped. Pow! I didn't even know I was shot. So I walk out the house, at my friend's house. I walk out. I'm like, we finna get in trouble. We still kids, we teenagers. I'm like, yo, his mother outside cutting grass. So she hear this loud pop. And so my friend whose house it was, he was helping his mother. We sitting in the kitchen, me and my other friend. And so he had like his whole face, what they said, pale as a ghost. Like his whole face went just pale. And like I'm like, what's wrong with you? And he looking at me. I still didn't know I was shot. Walked outside, and I felt the burn.
Oh man.
Stumbled down the stairs, got shot right here. Bullet entered in here, broke my jaw in 3 places, and stopped right in my neck. 22. Yep. So then, get out the hospital, and that was my wake up. I started really calling myself. I said, no, I'm gonna start serving God. I got scared. I thought, I almost died. So now I'm scared. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna serve God. And I call myself trying to make me a vow to God, like I'm gonna serve you. And I would still go left. And I said, I'm gonna start going back to church with my grandma. So we went, and speculation, she might didn't talk to the man, but I felt like she talked to her pastor, and all I remember is that man saying, we go open up in 1 Corinthians, and we need to just talk and get everything right in our lives. And he said, you know what? Don't shut the book. Why shut the book? We gonna talk about these gangbangers. And I looked at my grandma and said, oh, come on now.
And at this point, you like 21.
No, I'm 16.
Still 16?
I'm 16.
Oh, okay, you left college around 21, right?
Yep, I left to go to college at 21.
So at this time, the preacher is almost, in a sense, aiming at you.
Yeah.
So what did that do?
Oh, that discouraged me even more.
But you wanted to make a change.
I wanted to make a change.
Here it is, I want to find God. I don't want to live this life no more. You go to the place where you think this is going to help me change, and it's like he just adds salt to the wound.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh, y'all not about the right. So, and it did. It took me a while. It just kept going. I'm like, and then she'd call, and I say, no, I ain't going with you. I ain't going to that place. And I had a little conversation with my father, I said, "Yeah, I can't go there no more. I ain't going there." And he was like, "Well, you ain't gotta." He was like, "I ain't gonna force no religion on you." So he didn't. So I started reading Malcolm X, and like I said, this is the gang banging years. So I started researching because I was a vice lord. So I was vice lords. The lit was all praise to Allah.
Now you still in your teen years.
So I started researching. So when I looked at the lit, then I seen Malcolm X. I said, maybe we supposed to be Nation of Islam. So then I started trying to go be a Muslim.
Right.
And we had a store called the African Bookstore in our little shopping center in Geary. And that's why I started grabbing books from there. A lot of Nation of Islam brothers, I want to say that they own the store. And so they would give me all these books. They would give me books. And I would read these books. And I was watching Farrakhan. And so I would watch Farrakhan. I read these books. And I still in the midst, still trying to gang bang, sell. And it really wasn't even a gang banging thing no more for me. Then it became selling drugs. So now I'm selling drugs, still trying to find my identity. Because I'm saying I ain't finna be out here trying to kill nobody. He almost took my life, so I gotta stop. I gotta stop this part. So I figured, okay, I sell drugs. It's safe in that. It wasn't safe in that either.
One stream to the next.
Yeah. So now I'm studying. So I'm studying all these, digging into what we call African American or Black history. So I start digging.
Now you still at this age, at this point, what age are you?
This is from 16 to 17 to 18.
So that really had an effect on you. Because you know how some people, not most people may just do it for a while. You know what I'm saying? Something tragic happened. You know, it may kind of shock them for a moment and then go back. But you kept going.
Yeah, I kept going.
You kept going. Wow.
Kept trying to see if I can find God. You know, and I was talking to a brother today, and it was like, you know, I believe heavily in like visions, you know, and I would get, it was like the Lord would send me like, look, so when danger would come around, it was like he sent me the vision of that danger moment, and it would deter me. So I was like, hey, yo, take me home. I've seen this before. And brothers started calling me deja vu. They were like, this dude, you have a deja vu. And that's what I'm like, man, no, just take me home. And things will happen. So this is still my teenage years. And I remember them incidents, more, like I said, my thing was, it's like, I wanted to find out who Jesus really was. You know, because it always struck me weird. I was told it was like and I said when I do lessons, like people have you think it's a schizophrenic guy. Like when he was on the cross, he was talking to himself. He wasn't talking to the Father. So they used to throw me like,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So, and they kept me like, nah, he God. And I remember I was talking to my grandmother. She was like, oh, you got to wipe that out your mind. He's not God, but he's God. And I'm like, I'm confused. Like, it would be like, you would say that was the Father in the Old Testament, and I hadn't really picked up a Bible. Now I get to when I started picking up the Bible. When I actually picked up the Bible, it was one of the things that when I had people like, well, that was Jesus. Jesus is the Father. I'm like, that don't make no sense. That's like having a schizophrenic guy. Who he talking to? Is he talking to himself? You know, and he's saying Father, Father. I'm like, I that like always confused me. Like I don't, how you can in your mind think that he was just talking to himself? That's almost schizophrenia, ain't it?
Right.
You know, and so that's one of the things that always struck me weird. So, you know, that's what made me want to, you know, like, hey, I need to find out who this real Jesus is. And that's really what my uphill battle was with. Like, hey, I gotta find out who Jesus is. And so, like I said, my wife, her mother actually is who found Brother Elijah class.
Now they, like you said, they were for the most part Old Testament Hebrews.
Yeah, it was Old Testament.
Okay.
Both the women that I have met, or young ladies, because they was teenage girls, they was Old Testament. So they never spoke about Jesus. So that's what kept me like, I don't know. I don't know if this right then. If y'all don't know, I don't know about Jesus. So I don't know if y'all right. So now I can fast forward to when we go to Lafayette. We move to Lafayette. She's 19. She's 19. And I'm 23. And she drives back to Gary. We would drive back to Gary every weekend. It was an hour drive. So that's another reason why it wasn't so far. So she drives back to Gary. I want to say this is 2001. And she come back, she said, hey, it's a church on 15th. It's a church on 15th. This is when Israel Church of Jesus was on 15th Avenue in Gary. I said, on 15th where? So I dropped off to the church. I literally dropped off. I still want to go. I go right back in the hood and go right back with my homeboys. So when I dropped off, I said, hey, this is the old Tolliston Auto Park. I remember this. You know what I'm saying? So she's like, yeah, he was originally on Broadway. So she telling me where he had started off at. I said, these are the Bean Pie Brothers. You know, but I ain't, you know what I'm saying, who I would call the Bean Pie Brothers, because they would be out front. Because of an auto shop. So now I can take you back to 96. I didn't know nothing about the word in 96, but I rode past them in 96 all the time. Because my friends would go to the sound shop that was next door to the church.
Okay.
Yep, and that's why I was seeing them like, man, and we all be like, man, them Bean Pie Brothers finna start talking to us. Come on, we'll go back in the back alley area so they won't talk to us.
That's crazy. Gang members, and not necessarily gang members, but some of the toughest guys, and that happened all over the place.
Yeah,
that's why we'll go preaching, that we'll go into the roughest parts of Atlanta and preach and get no flack.
Oh yeah. Like, man, I want to hear these Bean Pie Brothers.
They would go the other way, man.
Yeah, we'll go over this way. Oh man.
Wow.
And that's what we would do. So it's just like And so when she started going, it still took me a while. So she's like, hey, you might want to check it out. You want to check it out? So I go and I hear Brother Elijah. I don't want to say, it's like I can remember this. I think that was my first lesson I heard from him was the Godhead. And everybody that I talked to, like, oh, what brought you into the word? What helped you get into the word? And I found out I was Israel. I'm like, I kind of knew I was Israel, but you know, they didn't believe in Jesus, so that kind of
kind of threw you off.
Yeah, so you know what I'm saying? We be Israel all day long. Y'all don't believe in Jesus. What's the purpose? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't know why I always had that mind state. So Elijah do the Godhead video. I mean, the Godhead lesson. So he does the Godhead lesson, and I don't know if he titled it that way back then, but it was the Godhead. But the title he has now is not one, not three, but two.
Right.
And so I'm like, whoa. I told you, I ain't read no Bible. I ain't know how to navigate through the Bible. My son at the time, he's 3 or 4 years old, making me look bad.
Because he can read.
He opening up the Bible.
Ooh, boy.
I'm looking at him like, oh, this is embarrassing. I'm like, oh, this is embarrassing. And I don't think I went in 2001. I don't think I went until like 2002. So he was 5. He was about 5 years old. 4 or 5. And I'm like, this is embarrassing. And he going through. He just, and then he helped me. He said, no, Daddy, this, yeah. I'm looking like, man, I gotta get stronger. And so I'm listening to the lesson, and her mother used to sit right in front of us. We sat on the very back, against, at the time, that was the sound room. And I sat on the back wall with my wife. And at the time, we had two. And my daughter was a baby. She was like 1 year old, and my son was 4. And that's how long it took. She found the class when he was 2. It took me 2 years to even step foot in there.
Wow. Because
I would tell her, I'm like, this is a church. I don't do churches. That's what I always tell her all the time. Like, you can go to that church. When that man talk crazy, then, that's on you. But I ain't going to no church. Them dudes, them pastors, preachers, whatever, get talking crazy. When something go wrong, or somebody say your business to them, and they do a sermon on you, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I was just, wow, because I was still holding on. I was still holding on to that. Yeah. So she was like, "No, it's not like that. Just come to the class." So I did. Said that it was the guy, and I never. And her mother, because she was stuck with, they didn't really speak on Jesus. Not that I'm the Messiah.
They just didn't say the name.
Yeah.
Right.
And so she had a look on her face like when he said Jesus, and her mother just had this look. And I looked, I said, he said Jesus. And you know what I'm saying? They wouldn't say no Yahshua, Yahweh, none of that. They would just say he was the Messiah. And I said, he said Jesus.
Wow.
And so then when he started breaking it down, I was like, and it was like, yo, and I think that's when I said, yo, I can go there. Wow. And the other thing was, I said, and the collection plate thing had effect on me also too, I guess. I said, they don't pass no collection plates.
So everything that you had experienced came back in some way, whether positive or negative, it came back. The positive part was that Jesus came back, something you were familiar with as a child. And also the incident where you, for the most part, someone got turned off from church, came back, negative at that time, but positive at this time, where you didn't even get introduced to.
No, I wasn't a collection plate or nothing like that. Because I'm waiting for him when he got done. I'm waiting for them to shut the door.
Right.
Y'all brothers blocked the entrance. That's what they did in my grandmother's church. You blocked the door, and collection plate go around 3 times. I think it went around the first time before he taught, second time
after the choir sings.
Yep.
And then after he preaches.
Yep. And that's what I was looking for. I said, I'm sitting there like, yeah, it's a church. And it didn't happen. Wow. I told her, I said, he don't pass no collection plate. And she was like, oh, what are you talking about? I said, because they never been to no church. Right. So, you know what I'm saying? They was gathered. They gathered.
They grew up in the word.
But they gathered. They families that was in the word, house to house, and gather and hold the Sabbath the best they could together. So when that happened, I said, hey, he believed in Jesus. Why y'all don't talk about Jesus? And my wife was like, chill, like, huh? And it kind of dawned on her. And then she talked. I remember her talking to her mother about it. And she was like, yeah, I don't know if that was kind of, because she wasn't used to him.
I mean, the name on the church
is a Church of Jesus. She had no problem with the name Jesus. She had no problem with the name Jesus. It's just what was Jesus' role. She didn't understand.
Oh, so that's what the God here taught.
Yes.
Now you coming in, right? This is pulling you in. When did you see the incident in the Bible at the police station? Was that before you saw the Godhead?
Before.
So at the police station, right? You seen that it was more than one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you get to this church, it just kind of solidifies what you read.
Yeah, 4 years. It was like 3 or 4 years later.
You walked in on that sermon.
Walked in on this here, and it was like amazing. And it was like the Lord, like, yeah.
That's amazing, man.
Now let me answer your question. Like, I wouldn't ask no questions. It was like I wouldn't ask no questions. And I tell people, ask questions, ask questions. But
the Lord kind of knew what you was thinking.
And it was all my questions would get answered, lesson by lesson. I don't care if I didn't come in there for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And it was times I wouldn't.
Right.
I didn't go for a long time. I would be in and out. Just drop off, I drop off. Hey, she's safe.
Right.
That's how I looked at it. I said, she's safe, she good. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And the kids are safe. And go back to what you said. Hey, they got a foundation about God. I deem this is good. They okay. You know what I'm saying? I just didn't want them to feel the experience that I went through.
Right.
So it's a whole different thing.
And that's natural.
Yeah. So it's like, y'all good.
Yeah.
So I would just drop off, and I call myself a FAP. That's what I call feast appearing people. I was a feast appearing person.
You was a FAP.
Yeah. So I will only appear during feast times.
Oh my God, the stuff I learned in Israel is amazing.
I was a feast appearing person.
Well, now that you're in the Word, right? You know, bring it down. Fast forward to you coming in. Clearly, you know, you're sitting here today, so you stayed, right?
Yes, sir.
But in between that time, you know, did you run into any obstacles?
Oh, I got beat down.
By who?
By the Lord.
Oh, I'm saying when you first came in, so you got beat down by the Lord, but did you have to, was it friends and families that separated from you? Or
Actually, to be honest with you, it's like the Lord just removed them. They removed themselves. Once I got grounded, my family started removing themselves little by little. Nobody wanted to talk to me.
Wow.
Because
what about your parents? How were they?
My father, before he died, and this always chokes me up, he said, if that God over there at that church changed you, I need you to stay going now.
Really? Wow, because you was 20, you was in your 20s when you got there.
When I found out I was 26, when I started going stable, I was 30. I was off and on.
Really?
Brother Elijah married us at 26. I still was only on the feast days. I was still working Sabbaths.
Right.
I knew, and I still would work them. And it was like little by little, the Lord would just keep beating me up to like family. Man, we had our own business. I'm still buying and selling. And I had to deal with Ishmael. Ishmael like, hey, how you up here today? I said, oh, it's the Sabbath. Cousin, come here, cousin.
They know.
Cousin, come here. And now I'm talking with them, and it was like, dang. It was like the Lord like, look, you got to figure this out. But he was still just beating, like, as in family members or nothing real bad with my family. No, I had no obstacles with my family.
That's good. It was just the Lord tweaking you and shaping you, molding you to get it right.
My sisters, actually my oldest sister, she was going there for a minute, but then she ended up going to the church across the street. So my wife had brought in my older sister. When she left, she left. That's
right. But she didn't stay.
Yeah, she didn't stay. And my younger sister, my mother, she don't have no issues. I mean, at first they used to kick, but then, like I said, if they felt like, hey, this dude done changed. So if this helped him change.
Like I was telling a couple yesterday when I was talking to them about the interview, how they came into the Word. The brother was, he was telling me about some things in the scriptures, and it sounded so good. And I told him, I say, well, if King Agrippa was sitting here, he would say, you almost convinced me to become a Christian. And that's almost like your father seeing your life, seeing how it changed you. For him to say, I need to go back to church, that had to mean a lot.
And what was crazy, I didn't even say this part. He said he was going to take me over there in 78 to Jerusalem. In 78.
As a kid?
As a kid. He said 77, 78, he was going to try to move to Jerusalem. And at that time frame, he knew he was Israel. And it totally dawned on me later on. I said, he knew this whole time.
Wow.
He got they put the bad taste in his mouth.
Who?
The old school Hebrews.
Is that right?
Yep. He said, he always used to tell me the story. He said, they slapped down a rusty 38 talking about before we go to Jerusalem, we're going to kill white. He said, I walked out, because my father was a military man. He said, I walked out of there, and I looked at them, I said, y'all tripping. Y'all crazy.
Wow.
And he said, if he over there preaching hatred, you leave that church. And I said, he ain't preaching that. And when time went on, he said, whatever he said over there, after I had you to change. Hey, and then that's when he told me. He said, hey, I was gonna take you over to Jerusalem. And it hit me hard, like, you knew all this time, right? And you never told me.
Wow.
You know.
Wow, because probably during his time coming up, it wasn't as prevalent as it is. You can probably say things, or you had an inclination, but to see the information that's available to us now, now somebody said, well, I can back it up now. I can show you, I can prove it to you, as opposed to in the 70s and the 80s, when our time we coming up, man.
When they kept Passover, they still was striking, and I know my mother-in-law, she had to stop from doing it. They would still strike the blood on the post.
They were still doing that?
They would still strike the blood.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by they didn't know the importance of Jesus.
Right.
Not that they didn't know Jesus, but they didn't know the importance of how important it was for Jesus.
Right. Well, now that you're in the Word, right? Now that you're in the Word, got understanding. How did finding out who Israel was help you navigate through the Scriptures? Now, you knew somewhat about it, right? Through the young lady that you met before your wife. Then when your wife came in the picture, you got married. You all got married and started actually doing this together. But bringing all that stuff up to the forefront now, how is it helping you move through the Bible? Seeing yourself.
That's a good one.
Because we can read the Bible, right? We can read the Bible, and it's almost like a veil is on your eyes until the Lord shows you the people of the Bible. You know what I'm saying? So now that you know who you are, how do you look at the Scriptures? How do you navigate through the Word?
And I always try to keep a spiritual eye open, and a lot of them scriptures that were hidden to me, that I felt like was hidden to me. It is like as soon as I found out I was Israel, it was like things just like started popping.
Right, coming to life.
Yeah,
in a sense.
And I would be up 4 or 5 in the morning, and I probably I say destroyed Bibles from highlighting, taking notes in, and just I would get up before I go to work, 4, 5 in the morning, sitting at the edge of my bed, highlighting things I had never read and understood before. Was just like it was.
Right.
I'm in Matthew. I'm jumping from Matthew to Psalms and just going back and forth. Like, whoa, I never knew nothing like this.
Right.
I never seen nothing like this. Deuteronomy, when I read Deuteronomy for the first time, Deuteronomy 28, it was just like I can understand literally, like this is talking about us.
Right.
This is us. Right. Go read stories in Exodus, the murmuring. I'm like, man, this is what we do.
Right. No mistaking, right?
And it was just like, just certain things, and like even the stories, the examples. I started looking at it like, man, I know a guy just like that. I don't know nobody personally like Judas, but you know what I'm saying? Just stories, like things that how things happen. Like, man, nothing's new.
Yeah, it fits us to a T.
It fits, everything fits.
Right.
And once I started understanding that, it made it easy for me. And I do believe knowing that I was Israel is what helped me even more.